Tonight on NewsWatch, time running out. Will the federal government shut down Friday? Speaker of the House John Boehner speaks to CBN News.
Plus, losing control. More protesters make it unlikely Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi can keep control of his country.
And a day of mourning. Black ministers mourn the 12 million babies from their community lost to abortion. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. The clock is ticking on a possible U.S. government shutdown. Good evening, I'm Lee Webb.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. The current budget expires Friday. And if lawmakers don't reach an agreement on spending by then, the government will shut down. At issue, the massive size of the federal deficit. So what does a government shutdown look like? Non-essential employees will be told to stay at home. That would mean national parks and museums would close. It would also put some benefits at risk, like veterans and new Social Security applicants. In a speech to a room full of evangelical leaders last night, House Speaker John Boehner called America's national debt a moral hazard. He spoke with CBN News chief political correspondent David Brody in Nashville.
Thank you all.
The Speaker of the House came to this evangelical audience with a moral message, but it wasn't about abortion or marriage. He was talking about our national debt.
We have a moral responsibility to deal with this threat to freedom and liberate our economy from the shackles of debt and unrestrained government.
In our exclusive interview with Speaker Boehner, he made clear that this fiscal crisis requires people to get on their knees.
This immense debt it's a moral hazard. And clearly, when you begin to look at the big challenges that face our country, both here and the challenges that we see abroad, many people begin to realize that, they better start praying as well.
Praying that the government won't shut down, which would happen if Republicans and Democrats can't agree on how to fund the government.
Can you pretty much assure folks that the government's not going to shut down come March 4th?
Our goal is to cut spending, not to shut down the government.
So both sides will probably agree to an extension to avoid a shutdown. But Speaker Boehner still wants spending cuts in the continuing resolution, or CR for short. Pro-life groups hope the House-approved defunding of Planned Parenthood is part of the deal. Boehner alluded to it during the speech.
And we're fighting to end taxpayer funding for abortion once and for all.
But what if that's taken out? I asked if that would be a deal stopper. The Speaker told me he wants to choose his battles on this issue carefully.
What we want to do here is win the war, not just win a battle. And there will be an opportunity sometime in order to win the big war.
That's just one battle ahead. There are plenty others, like entitlement reform in the budget, where he says the president went AWOL.
The president had an opportunity when he submitted his budget to deal with this, and he melted like an ice cream cone on a Phoenix street in July.
Republican leaders will release their budget in about a month, but so far they haven't given any specifics when it comes to touching the dreaded third rail of politics, Social Security.
Will you mention touching the retirement age and means testing? Will any of this come up?
We will be discussing all of it.
The Speaker says tough choices are going to have to be made. That's exactly why you see governors in Wisconsin, Ohio, and other states starting to take on the public employee unions in an effort to make tough budget cuts.
Over the last couple of years, the Obama administration and the Democrat-controlled Congress bailed out the states where they could avoid making the tough decisions. Well, there's no more bailouts coming from Washington. We're broke. We're broke. We don't have money to dish out to the states.
It's all part of his fiscal moral message, a message that he hopes will resonate not just with evangelicals, but all Americans. David Brody, CBN News, in Nashville, Tennessee.
Fred Barnes is executive editor of the Weekly Standard and a commentator on Fox News Channel. He says the current budget crisis gives Republicans a chance they've never had before.
The issue has really ripened so much, and it's a national issue. It's not just cutting the budget in Washington. It's in states like Wisconsin and Ohio and California and Illinois, and it's not just states. It's down at the local level, too. That's one big difference. And the other one is, over the last few years, the public has learned about what the problem is, that we have this huge debt problem, and that part of that problem is is public employees that have retired early and gotten these lavish benefits that states and local governments can no longer afford. Republicans, even when right now they're proposing a 2-week extension of the budget or a continuing resolution, but they've got cuts in there. And they've been pretty actually ingenious, because these are cuts that President Obama proposed in his 2012 budget. He doesn't propose much in cuts, but some, and so Republicans are now proposing those, plus cuts in earmarks. So it will be hard for President Obama to be against this extension anyway.
For the entire interview with Fred Barnes, go to our website, cbnnews.com.
Turning now to the crisis in Libya, where opposition forces are closing in on Muammar Gaddafi. They are now just one city away from the capital of Tripoli. But Gaddafi shows no signs of going quietly. Now the U.S. military is repositioning forces in that area. John Waggy has the story.
The town of Zawiya is just 30 miles west of Gaddafi's command center. There, the crowd of protesters and military defectors say they're in control.
They can kill all of us, but what the hell? We're looking for freedom. We have a cause.
But Gaddafi's son warned ABC's Christiane Amanpour that if his father is forced to flee, it will tear apart the country.
Let's say if he has to leave today. If he lives today, just 1 hour later, local war, civil war in Libya.
As much as 80% of Libya's oil sites are now controlled by anti-Gaddafi forces. And as the opposition braces for a long fight with Gaddafi loyalists, the U.S. Navy is deploying closer to Libya in the Mediterranean. Speaking in Geneva, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton hinted that the use of military force is at least being explored.
We will continue to explore all possible options for action. As we have said, nothing is off the table.
At the same time, UN officials were congratulating themselves on tough new sanctions passed by the Security Council, including a weapons embargo against Gaddafi.
I can't remember a time in recent memory when the Council has acted so swiftly, so decisively, and in unanimity on an urgent matter of international human rights.
Lost in the discussion was the UN's action to elect Libya as chair of the Human Rights Council just 8 years ago. A Gaddafi spokesman wasted no time blasting the UN action.
They did not ask to come into Libya. They had no fact-finding mission in Libya. They based their decision on media reports. Have you ever heard about a Security Council resolution that will decide the future of a country based on media reports?
As Gaddafi loses his grip on the country, people are remembering those who died under his regime.
The pictures behind me are for the young Libyan people who are being killed by Gaddafi and his helpers.
The protesters are waiting for more military defectors to join them in the capital. Until then, the risk of more victims in the Libyan streets is high. John Waggy, CBN News.
Scott Wheeler joins us now. Scott has worked undercover in Libya, and currently he's with the Republican National Trust Political Action Committee. Scott, in an interview today, Muammar Gaddafi wouldn't even acknowledge the protesters. He says the people love him. Is he delusional, or does he really believe this?
Well, I think it's the thing that he has to say. It's the political thing that he must say to suggest that this is the basis for my legitimacy. We know that they've imported some foreign fighters, although I think there are questions about whether or not those militias they brought in to protect him in Tripoli are going to be that effective. What it'll come down to is how ruthless and brutal he's willing to be. The ruthless dictators win out of these, will win ultimately in the coup. The ones who lose heart, the ones that back off or try to negotiate, they will end up dying or fleeing the country.
Yeah. I've got to admit, I was a bit surprised to hear that the U.S. may be considering military intervention. Is that wise in your opinion?
It's... It depends on the circumstances. I was a little surprised too to hear it, but now we've heard it leak out that Gaddafi has chemical weapons, mustard gas specifically. He might be willing to use it, and I think that is a threat that he is sending out to drive the foreign press out of Libya, so that when it comes to the real crackdown that'll require for him to stay in power, there'll be fewer and fewer reporters there and people with cameras to record it, that at least that have credibility.
I'm trying to think how the international community, particularly the Arab world, would respond if we responded with military force to help the rebels.
Think of the political situation here at home. The previous president was under immense pressure from the opposition party and Mr. Obama, as a matter of fact, for taking military action in the Middle East, and now he's faced with the same position. What he does now will tell the Middle East a lot about how serious he is and what he's willing to do. There's tremendous conflicts in Obama dealing with Gaddafi. As I had reported over the years, Obama has an unusual relationship with Gaddafi, and Gaddafi seemed to know, based on a speech he gave in June of 2008, before anyone knew about Obama's prodigious fundraising activities with money coming from the Middle East. Nobody knew that at that time, and Gaddafi in Libya made a speech that was translated from Arabic by a Middle East Media Research Institute that seemed to suggest he had an astounding knowledge of how Obama's campaign was going and insider knowledge, and that perhaps he was getting money from the Middle East. Gaddafi was the beneficiary of Obama forcing Chrysler to cut a deal with Fiat, because Gaddafi in Libya owns between 3 and 7% of the company Fiat. So very unusual relationships there.
Scott, that's fascinating. We'd like to pursue that more, but unfortunately we're out of time. But thank you for providing your insights. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We'll be right back.
It has been and remains one of the most feared afflictions of our time. And when you hear the word, you have to ask yourself, will I get cancer? The fact is, as many as 60% of cancer cases can be prevented. Internationally renowned cancer expert Dr. Robert A. Washer's new book, A Cancer Prevention Guide for the Human Race, reviews the science behind cancer risk and prevention. This may be the most important book you will ever read. A Cancer Prevention Guide for the Human Race, available now at Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, Dog Ear Publishing, and other fine booksellers.
If you're an individual, group, or business needing a dental plan, Avia Dental offers group plans for as little as $5 per month. Now members of your group can save up to 50% or more off a high-quality dental care. Everyone qualifies, and there's no waiting or limits on visits to the dentist. Visit aviadental.com or call 1-888-431-CARE. Avia Dental since 1994. Smile, you're with people who care.
How will you survive this recession? What if you lose your job, your income? The answers are in this new book, Survivor's Guide to a Recession 50 States. It outlines free assistance you can get now that will reveal unique ways to make additional income, outline ways to save more money, uncover amazing resources for finding free food and clothing, locate incredible discounts of 75% or more, good in all 50 states, and now only $14.95. Get yours today while supplies last. Survivor's Guide to a Recession 50 States.
Something going on at home?
Don't go preacher on me, man.
I'm not going preacher. I'm your friend.
A man without hope must accept the past.
I am alone. Been alone since I buried my first boy.
And let faith guide him.
What is there to believe in?
You can never underestimate the power of grace.
Now, witness the power of forgiveness.
And we in this together, man.
The Grace Card, rated PG-13. Now playing.
Pro-life lawmakers in Iowa are trying to keep late-term abortionist Leroy Carhart out of their state. The Nebraska doctor wants to cross state lines and open a clinic to perform abortions after 20 weeks of pregnancy. Now Iowa lawmakers are considering a bill that would outlaw those late abortions and effectively ban Carhart from the state.
I don't know of a person who can stand without feeling very emotional to listen to a description, a very vivid description of what a late-term abortion is. And it's a very grisly, horrendous procedure, and it really doesn't need to happen.
So far, pro-life lawmakers in the House have had trouble finding support to pass the measure quickly. Well, black pro-life leaders gathered today in Philadelphia for a day of mourning.
That's because in some black communities, and this is hard to imagine, that more babies are aborted than are allowed to live. These leaders say the abortion industry targets African American communities. Here's Charlene Israel.
Abortion is black genocide. What happens to a mind of a person and the moral fabric of a nation that can accept the aborting of a child without a pang of conscience?
In many black communities, for every child actually born, 3 others are aborted, more than double the rate among whites. In just the last 25 years, 12 million blacks have been aborted. Dr. Clinton Childress, founder of blackgenocide.org, says the consequences of those figures will eventually end up destroying a whole race of Americans. In his book, No Shepherd's Cry, Childress says the black church can no longer be silent on the issue.
If there's a devouring force that is decimating my community, as a shepherd, I must respond with the truth and deliver the lamb with its young from the wolf and the devourer. And the devourer is the abortion industry.
Dr. Childress points out this should come as no surprise, considering that black Americans were long ago targets of the abortion industry. In the early 20th century, Margaret Sanger founded Planned Parenthood, an organization that later became the nation's largest abortion provider. Sanger encouraged abortion and sterilization to limit the size of black families. Childress says she also used the unaware black minister to further her agenda.
Margaret Sanger, a devout racist, a eugenics, and the author of the Negro Project, knew that the colored minister was going to be pivotal in getting her program across. The colored minister, the Negro minister, the African-American minister is pivotal right now in addressing the abortion issue because we have been silent due to political ties and due to some misinformation.
Charlene Israel, CBN News.
New Zealand's devastating earthquake did not stop Sunday worship. Churches were among the hardest hit buildings when the massive quake ripped through Christchurch. Parishioners held Sunday services in parks and on the lawns of those shattered churches. The death toll from last Tuesday's earthquake has climbed to nearly 150 and is expected to rise.
Can the state of Kentucky use the words Almighty God in its legislation? That's the question now before a 3-judge appeals panel. The phrase was used in legislation that created the state's Homeland Security Office. 10 Kentucky residents challenged that wording in court. A lower court sided with them and ruled the phrase unconstitutional. The state's attorney general argues now that the governments in America have had the right to talk about God for 2 centuries.
Up next, defending traditional marriage in Maryland.
The doctor said to me, "Peggy, you don't understand. Pancreatic cancer is inoperable and incurable." And he says, "Well, Peggy, you've got 2 months to live." It was like he was telling me, go to the store. There was no compassion. Yeah, it was heartbreaking. My life was an hourglass. I was home, laying on the couch, just dying. My sister Pam called the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. When I got there, I knew that I was going to be cared for. I met with the doctor after the tests were done and said, "How long do I have?" And he looked at me and he said, "Peggy, we did a lot of tests on you. And I never saw one thing stamped on the bottom of your foot that said you were going to die in 2 months. You have no expiration date." I thought, wow.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is unlike any other cancer hospital, full of hope, committed to your fight. We use every weapon: surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, nutrition, spiritual support, and mind-body medicine. We surround you with a real team, working together, all under one roof.
Each time I went back to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, I responded better. My tumors were shrinking. Came back in September again, and they still couldn't see anything. I said, "You're kidding me." We'll see how it goes. We'll keep testing, but we can't see the tumors anymore.
Please call the number on your screen to speak with an oncology information specialist and receive a life-changing information kit and DVD packed with valuable information. Call now and learn about treatment options you may not even know exist.
It's really unbelievable how one doctor can tell me I have 2 months to live. And then I go to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America and they saved my life. Hope is a mainstay. Hope is everything.
Don't give up. Your fight is our fight. Call Cancer Treatment Centers of America today.
Maryland could soon become the 6th state to legalize gay marriage.
Lawmakers there recently gave the citizens a chance to weigh in on how they feel about same-sex marriage coming to Maryland. Paul Strand was there and has the story from Annapolis.
The Senate here at the State House having already voted to legalize gay marriage, the House of Delegates is now taking it up. They began with a marathon hearing in which dozens of advocates, pro and con, testified. Many homosexuals, delegates among them, pleaded for their unions to be recognized.
And while it's love that makes a family, it is marriage that protects it. A state-sanctioned marriage license protects us when one of us is in the hospital, or when we need health insurance, or when we need to visit each other in a nursing home, or make financial decisions for each other, or make life and death decisions for each other.
We've been together for 13 years. We're a very, very solid family, very much into our religious beliefs that God creates people for love, and love is for everyone.
We represent the families who this bill will impact. It's more than just a debate for us. It means a solidification of our family, that we're not legal strangers in the eyes of the law, and that's what we want to help people understand, that it's more than a debate for us, it's reality.
Darrell Carrington spoke of the hundreds of rights on the line for homosexuals.
There's about 468 individual rights in the state of Maryland that married couples are entitled to, and at the federal level it's over 1,100.
But those opposing gay marriage attacked on many fronts, especially concerning children.
It's really not discrimination to say that children deserve a mother and a father. That's shared in every faith viewpoint, every culture in history.
And marriage is between a man, one woman, becoming one flesh, blessed of God, consummated to bring children into the world. That is what marriage is. It's holy ground, and we don't touch holy ground.
Powerful testimony came from 2 ex-gays who said homosexuals don't need gay marriage because they don't even need to be gay.
I spent 2 years in recovery. I am now married for over 25 years and have 2 grown children. I am proof that homosexuals are not born that way.
There are many clinical studies and individual reports of people who are their own free will change their sexual orientation. And I am not the only one. This isn't Winnie the Pooh and I'm not Tigger. There have been thousands of people like me who have left the homosexual lifestyle as an act of their will, a right of self-determination.
Being set free from the grip of the homosexual lifestyle was the equivalent of coming off of heroin. But with God's help, I made it. After receiving help, I wanted to help others, and in the last 20 years, I have ministered to over 600 men and women who have successfully left the homosexual lifestyle.
The House will likely move quickly on this issue, with debate on the House floor expected to come in just a matter of days.
Hundreds of people showed up for this House hearing because this is literally the last chance for folks on both sides of the issue to testify and put a human face on their feelings about gay marriage. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Annapolis, Maryland.
Thanks, Paul. The battle over Prop 8 in California now has a state-elected official defending the ban on same-sex marriage. The governor and attorney general refused to defend the law in a federal suit against it. Last month, an appeals court ruled that California's Imperial County could not defend Prop 8 because its main defendant was a deputy clerk and not an elected clerk. But now, newly elected county clerk Chuck Story has filed papers to defend the controversial law. Story and other Imperial County officials say they're directly affected by Prop 8. They say if it's overturned, they would be forced to perform gay marriages.
The last American veteran to serve in World War I has died. Frank Buckles was just 16 years old when he enlisted in 1917. He tried several times before he was able to find a recruiter who would believe that he was 18. Buckles served mostly as an ambulance driver in England and France. He never saw combat, but he was later taken prisoner of war in the Philippines as a civilian during World War II. In later life, Buckles worked tirelessly for a World War I memorial on the National Mall in Washington. He was 110 years old.
Wow. Indoor tanning beds are very popular with teenage girls, but now a medical group wants to ban all minors from tanning salons. The American Academy of Pediatrics says the move will reduce the risk of teens getting skin cancer. Over 30 states regulate indoor tanning by minors. Some require a parent's permission and ban children younger than 14. Illinois and New York are considering bills barring anyone under 18 from using tanning beds. Indoor tanning is linked to an increase in skin cancer. Over 8,500 people died last year of melanoma.
Up next, the King's victory speech. We talked to a British entertainment host who tells us why the film was so popular here and over there.
The doctor said to me, Peggy, you don't understand. Pancreatic cancer is inoperable and incurable. And he says, well, Peggy, you've got 2 months to live. It was like he was telling me, go to the store. There was no compassion. Yeah, it was heartbreaking. My life was an hourglass. I was home, laying on the couch, just dying. My sister Pam called the Cancer Treatment Centers of America. When I got there, I knew that I was going to be cared for. I met with the doctor after the tests were done and said, how long do I have? And he looked at me and he said, Peggy, we did a lot of tests on you, and I never saw one thing stamped on the bottom of your foot that said you were going to die in 2 months. You have no expiration date. I thought, wow.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is unlike any other cancer hospital, full of hope, committed to your fight. We use every weapon: surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, nutrition, spiritual support, and mind-body medicine. We surround you with a real team, working together, all under one roof.
Each time I went back to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, I responded better. My tumors were shrinking. Came back in September again, and they still couldn't see anything. I said, you're kidding me. We'll see how it goes. We'll keep testing, but we can't see the tumors anymore.
Please call the number on your screen to speak with an oncology information specialist and receive a life-changing information kit and DVD packed with valuable information. Call now and learn about treatment options you may not even know exist.
It's really unbelievable how one doctor can tell me I have 2 months to live. And then I go to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America and they saved my life. Hope is a mainstay. Hope is everything.
Don't give up. Your fight is our fight. Call Cancer Treatment Centers of America today.
Last night at the Academy Awards, the big winner was The King's Speech.
Yeah, I agree. The film about King George VI, who learns to overcome a stuttering problem, won the award for Best Picture. Colin Firth, who played the King, won for Best Actor. Director Tom Hooper also won for Best Original Screenplay. And earlier I spoke with Shanine Clark. She is a British radio and television host who credits the film's transparency of the royal family for its success in the UK.
It's the first cinema audience I've ever attended where the audience got up and clapped. It was well received, I think, because it actually exposed the weakness in the royal family, that someone had a speech impairment and they needed help. I think what really moved me as well is the unqualified man that taught him to overcome this weakness, and his compassion and how he just dealt with him. It was quite ruthless, but the English can be. And, the Bible says your weakness, can be turned into strength. And I think, your gift takes you before great men, before kings, and his did.
The movie cost only $15 million to make, but so far it's grossed $249 million worldwide.
I thought it was the best movie I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And I totally loved that part where just the overcoming part.
Well, everybody here loves it. I think we have an infatuation with the royal family here in the U.S., but Shanine told me it was just as popular in the UK. That's good to know.
Great, cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's all for this edition of NewsWatch.
Good night.